of the brief 9-slide online introduction to the evaluation that you have completed prior to getting on this webinar. So everybody that's on, you did the 9 slides, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Today we're going to work with and discuss the specific levels of evaluation. As we proceed, please remember to mute your speakers until you wish to make a comment, most especially if you are dealing with background noise. Reducing that background noise will help both in the fact that we are recording this webinar and for the ease of hearing one another as we work through it. If it's very quiet where you are probably okay without muting. Okay. Today you will have an opportunity to learn about and practice classifying evaluation inquiries into the 4 levels of evaluation. Also feel free to access the identified pages in your FET handout that are in the little gray box, which is up on the screen, pages 1 through 9 in Module 4. You can have those handy if you want, or you can refer to them later. Our roadmap for today's webinar is very straightforward and to the point. We are going to define, describe, and work with the 4 levels of evaluation. Prior to logging on to this webinar in the online introduction to evaluation, you were introduced to the purpose of evaluation. You reviewed some of the pros and cons of conducting evaluation. And you posted 3 or 4 ways to collect evaluation data that either you have used in your recent training sessions or that you have experienced in workshops that you have attended. Finally, during our recent face-to-face training, you discussed the many pros and cons around evaluation when you participated in the great debate. Does that ring a bell with all of you?
Yes, it does.
All right. These activities set the groundwork for our webinar today as we learn about and work with the 4 levels of evaluation. At this point, do you have any questions regarding this information up to this point? Anybody? All right. If not, we're going to get started. The 4 levels of evaluation are randomly listed on the screen. In reality, there is a specific order for them, level 1 to level 4. As you look at them on the screen, and for those of you who don't have a screen, it says behavior change, participant reaction, results and impact, and participant learning. Which one of these do you think evaluation at level 1 is represented?
Participant reaction.
You are correct. Why do you think that's considered level 1? Anybody out there? Why do you think participant reaction is considered level 1?
Because it's something that you'll always have.
You're getting a lot of feedback. When you say you'll always have, what do you mean by that?
Well, the participants always would react in some way.
Okay, so everybody, you and everybody has a reaction when you're sitting in a workshop, right? As to how much you like the workshop, whether you like the trainer, whether you like the site that you're in, all those kinds of things, right?
Yes.
So they're easy to obtain. Everybody has them. And there's real no connect to content. It's just, how were things, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay, so pretty easy and pretty straightforward. Everybody understand that one? Participant reaction?
Yes.
Okay. Then which one do you think is level 2? Behavior change, results and impact, or participant learning?
Participant learning.
Correct again. And why do you think that's level 2? What made you think that would be level 2 over the other 2 items?
Mostly because I feel like the other two, you have to have learning before the behavior change or the results impact can take place.
Very good point. That's exactly right. Can't have much behavior change happening or results in impact if you haven't learned anything, right? Would you all agree out there? Let me hear a little bit of head shaking through your voice.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it's pretty elementary, my dear Watson. Level 1 is participant reaction, and level 2 is participant learning. Which one then do you think is level 3?
Behavior
Results
change.
and impact.
Okay, we got a little bit of both. We got behavior change and results and impact. Those of you who say results and impact, why do you think that would be level 3? Or those of you who said behavior change, why do you think that one would be level 3?
I'm taking my learning, then I'm going back and I'm facilitating changes in what I do in my program.
Okay, so you have to do something, and once you do it, what should happen?
Then you'll have an impact and see
You should have an
results.
impact. Does that make sense? Okay, for the folks who said results and impact, does that make sense to you?
Yes.
All right. So level 3 is indeed behavior change. So what that means is, in fact, behavior change is something that happens back in the workplace. Not going to happen in the training, folks, at all. Okay? I mean, you might change some people's minds about things. They might get excited about what you're talking about, right?
Right.
And you want that. But the actual behavior change, that's not going to happen until you get back to the work site and do what?
Implement.
Yeah, you have to practice and implement, all right? Well, process of elimination then. Level 4 is results and impact. What does results and impact mean to you? Those of you on this webinar today, what does that mean when you hear that, results and impact?
Well, impact would be the effectiveness of the training, and results would be actually what the participants did learn. How effective was your training?
You're sort of partway there. You're partway there.
I'm thinking,
I think it's the change in the children, too, and what you're doing.
Okay, somebody else? I heard somebody else start to say something.
is there a difference in what the outcomes are for the kiddos?
Yeah, so the person who said results and impact, I mean, there may be some results and impact on the adults as well. We won't forget that. But for our purposes, just in terms of that fact that we are training early childhood personnel, and we want them, as a result of the training, we want them to make some behavior changes back in their work style, right? In their workplace and in the style of what they're doing, correct?
Right.
So that behavior change can be measured. If in fact, I mean, the purpose of training is to create behavior change on the part of the adults back in the workplace. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's what we all want when we go into train. If those adults, in fact, do make some behavior changes based on the training, what we should then see after that takes place for a while is we should see some results and impact on the children. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
So when you've got behavior change going on, what you're really looking at is improved quality of services, and those improved quality of services will show in the results and impact of what you're seeing in terms of children. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. So based on what we just discussed, here's the correct order of the 4 levels of evaluation. And as we proceed, we're going to discuss each level in this order. Any comments or questions?
No.
Okay. Level 1 evaluation is participant reaction. And at this level, the trainer is seeking feedback on the training session itself. And this takes place right at the end of the workshop session. Every workshop you've ever been to, if you have filled out an evaluation form, you have likely been asked some participant reaction questions. They would look like, what did you enjoy about this training session? Were you satisfied with the support materials you received? How effective was your trainer? It's all subjective kinds of things of how the participant enjoyed, liked, got something out of the workshop that was presented. For this level, you could use rating questions, you could use ranking questions, scales of 1 to 5, how effective, least effective, real effective, yes, no questions that like, were you satisfied? And then open-ended questions, things like, what did you like about this session? You get much more usable information asking simple open-ended questions. For instance, are you satisfied with the support materials is a yes-no question, right?
Yes.
They either were or they weren't. But if you turn that into an open-ended question and said, what do you like about the support materials, what do you think you'll get?
You'll get a list.
Pardon me?
You might get a list of things they liked.
Yeah, you'll get a list of things. Even if one person says one thing, another person might say something else. You will get much more usable information. So again, if you say, did you enjoy this training session? Again, somebody might say yes or no. But if you say, what did you enjoy about this training session? Number one, you're setting yourself up for finding out what people liked about it, and you're going to get actual examples rather than just yes or no. Do you see the value in that?
Yes.
All right, and the same with how effective was your trainer? So you might have a scale from least, not effective to very effective. That gives you minimal information, where if you turn that into an open-ended question and said, what did you find most effective about this presenter's presentation style? You're going to get a lot more specific information. Comments about that? Do you see the difference and the value in the difference?
Yes.
Do you think it's more work?
Yes.
Really?
For them it is.
It is, but is it really work, or is it really an opportunity to tap them and let them, have some buy-in to this training? I mean, if we talk about so many evaluations, even in the debate, nobody pays attention to them, you don't really get what you want. Remember we talked about not putting evaluation at the very end? Does anybody remember why we said that?
Because they're tired and...
Tired? Why else?
They're checking out. They're ready to go.
Checking out. They're really not thinking. So if you ask open-ended questions and you're not asking it at the very, very end, you are opening a door for them to really give you feedback and not just, yes and no's don't do us much good, folks. They really don't do us much good. And so I want you to think about that when you're creating evaluation forms, okay?
Okay.
All right, so level 2 is participant learning. And at this level, you are asking the participants to recall some of the things they learned about. Again, and it's right at the end of the training session. This isn't done back in the training site or in the home work site. This is done right at the end of training. Again, any evaluation that you've ever filled out, if you're going to be asked this, it's going to be on that evaluation form. What do you remember me saying at our face-to-face session regarding participant learning and training? Does anybody recall what I said about that? Do they learn something or do they learn about something?
You learn about it.
And what's the difference between those two statements?
You can know what you're going to present, so what they'll be learning about, but you can't necessarily know what exactly they're learning.
Exactly. That's it right there. So keep that in mind always as a trainer, that you're finding out what they learned about, okay? And listed on the screen are examples of how you might phrase statements that offer participants the opportunity to articulate what they learned about. For instance, list at least 4 out of the 6 strategies that you practiced. Identify a set of principles that were discussed. Describe 2 strategies that support a particular concept that you had covered in the training. And maybe even complete a post-training inventory. These various methods for this level could be lists, descriptions, comparisons, narratives, and inventories. All of those means that that you're asking them to write something. And when they're writing something, what are you getting?
More detail.
You're getting more detail. Exactly. You're getting more information and more detail, and it's going to be so much more helpful for you. And that's why we advocate, again, not doing evaluations at the very end of the session and allowing, 5 minutes, not just 1 minute. Most people with most evaluation forms can get them done in about 30 seconds, right? Right. And our advice is to, supply 5 minutes for evaluation so that you can get and give them the opportunity to write that detail that's going to really help you as a trainer. And again, it's done in the closing component, but not at the very end, okay? Questions? Anybody? Okay.
Is this stuff somewhere that I can print it, or is it in our binder already?
Well, you have this information in your Module 4 handout, pages 1 to 9.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to write really fast. Okay. I'll print that out later then.
Yeah. Okay.
Sue?
Yes?
Before you go on, I was going to ask, if you're on a cell phone or if you're on a speakerphone, if you could keep your phone muted to cut down on the background noise.
Thanks, Patty. Sometimes you get some feedback, folks. Level 3 evaluation is the behavior change of participants, the staff you're working with. This level is inquiring about what participants are doing differently back in their workplace after the training session. Things they're doing differently than they were doing before they attended the training. At level 3, you are measuring the adult's use of new knowledge and skills in the workplace post-training. And it's usually a number of weeks after the training, because what you want is to give them a little time after the training to actually do that practice and do the implementation. So this requires some kind of follow-up depending on the topic. 4 weeks post-training might be appropriate, or 8 weeks post-training might be appropriate. It depends on the topic that you covered and the time you think as a trainer it would take to start seeing some change in behavior. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yes.
Some of the things that you can do to look at and measure behavior change is getting a pre and post list of materials that could be documented if you were looking at materials in the classroom. Maybe a set of pre and post photos that could be compared and contrasted before training and after training, right? You could do a pre and post set of timed observations and narratives. What's being done before we do the training, and now what's being done some weeks after the training. Let me stress that you must identify the exact number of weeks. That could be as little as 2 weeks. For instance, if you were looking at a change in the organization of the learning environment, do you think that would take 4 weeks to do once they got back to their site? Maybe I should say, should it take 4 weeks to do?
No.
No, it shouldn't. So you might be able to do follow-up there 2 weeks after training. But if you're looking at adult-child interaction strategies and implementing them, 2 weeks would never be enough practice time. Would you agree?
Agreed.
What would you guess? If you gave a workshop on good supportive adult-child interaction strategies, how many weeks do you think it should take of good practice before you might be able to go in and see some progress?
4 to 6 weeks.
Okay, I'm going to take that answer. I'm fine with that. But you have to choose 4 weeks, 5 weeks, or 6 weeks. It's not a window. And for that particular one, I'd probably say 6 weeks, right? If you really want to see some change taking place. So do you see what I mean? We're not looking for a window of time. You've got to set. Why do you think I say that? Why do you think I'm as particular about that? Identifying a set number of weeks.
It sets a goal for the participant.
Absolutely. It sets a goal for them. Who else? Who else does it set a goal for?
For us, it's measuring.
Yeah. And it keeps you on track and it keeps them on track. If you say 4 to 8 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks, all of a sudden, guess what? 7 weeks have gone by and, so you set that date and you stick to it. Are y'all cool with that?
Yes.
Yes.
And you do have a little, flexibility there. You're the trainer. You can decide, you want to be fair, but you don't want to set it so far out, that they're not really dealing with it anymore. You want to stay on top of it. So, set your number of weeks, but make it fit what you're looking for, okay?
Congratulations. You completed 3 of the 4.
All right. Level 4. Level 4 evaluation is results and impact. This is generally results and impact of the children. Sometimes it's for the families or the program as a whole, but for our purposes, as I said when we started out, we're looking at results and impact predominantly on the children, okay? And you notice that it says it's a set number generally, again, generally, a set number of months after the training, because the teacher has gone back and is spending weeks and weeks learning to perfect, practice, implement, and maintain this new change in behavior, right? Right?
Yes.
Yes.
So you ought to let some, 2 to 6 months. It really, again, depends on the focus. How long is it going to take, do you think, to actually see some changes as a result of that change in behavior, results in impact on what children are doing in the classroom? So you have to set that a little further out. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so if you see what's listed up there, what we might be looking for is a decrease, a percent of decrease in, say, for instance, children missing less days due to illness because they have now increased their hand washing abilities and how often they're doing it. And because children are washing their hands more often and teachers are using the correct process, they've changed their behavior, they've changed the amount of times this is happening, some months down, you should be able to look and see, is there a percent of decrease in children's absenteeism? Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. Same with a percent of decrease in children's engaging in, a percent of increase in children's engagement in cooperative play. If you've given a workshop on perhaps, interactive play between children and strategies that support that sort of thing. Or a percent of increase in children solving their own problems more independently. If you've given a workshop on problem-solving approach to conflict, and the teacher is now, over weeks and weeks, have really pinned down and used that problem-solving approach, what you should see as a result, 3 or 4 months down the road, is an increase in children solving their own problems or being very involved in the problem-solving process. Do you see that connection now?
Yes.
And do you see the difference in the weeks for the trainer, meaning, when you first go back and look versus when you first go back and look at results, it's going to be a couple of months to 3 months to 4 months to 6 months, right?
Yes.
I want to make sure you understand that. And then the last one is perhaps they're looking at, by asking open-ended questions, that's a change in behavior on the adult's part. After some months of doing that with children, you should see an increase in children's mean length of utterance. And again, that would be doing observation and narrative, that kind of thing. So results and impact is measured a set number of months following the training. And again, that totally depends on the content. It could be as little as 2 months or as far out as 6 months. Any questions about that?
No.
Right? That said, you are going to experience some online polling in this activity. This poll gives you an opportunity to read or hear. For those of you that do not have a screen, I will in fact read the question out loud once or twice so that you can cognitively get it in your head. And then what you're going to do is poll whether you think that is a level 1 inquiry, a level 2 inquiry, a level 3 inquiry, or a level 4 inquiry, and then you're going to enter your vote. And before we get started, are there any questions about what we're doing here for those of you that have access to your computer? When the question is asked and read, you can read it yourself as well. I would like to ask you to submit your poll answer as soon as possible so that we can, move through this in a fairly timely pattern. There will be 20 poll questions. So, Patty, are you going to start the poll? All right, here we go. The first one is, the inquiry would be, what is the percent of increase in the use of open-ended questions when talking with children during small group time?
Where do we, for those of us who don't have a screen, where do we type that answer?
You could type in your answer if you would like to.
But where? Because
at the bottom of the screen.
So they're just called in. They don't have a...
Oh, well then I guess, you know what, just write it down on your own paper and keep track of your answer.
Okay.
All right? And just see if you're right or wrong, and we will tell you what it is. Okay. Can I ask who the guest is from Western Kentucky University? Who would that be? Okay. All right, so what we have here is sort of a 30-70. People said that it is level 4. It is actually a level 3. Can anybody tell me why it is a level 3? What is the focus of this level 3 question?
It's the teacher's behavior and not the children's, the change in...
It's the teacher's behavior and not the children. It says the percent of increase in use of open-ended questions when talking with children. They've got a very specific time they're practicing this, right? And they're learning to improve asking open-ended questions during small group time. So the whole day, they're just looking at this right now. Very measurable, right? Very, very measurable. But we aren't. That is, in fact, a level 3 question. So those of you who said level 4, do you get the distinction now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, terrific. Next question. List the current types and amounts of materials that are accessible to the children in your block area.
Level 2.
If anything, this would be either a pre-training or a post-training. So what does it, and whose behavior is it looking at? You're right. Okay, now we'll explain this one. Obviously, when we're looking for information, at level 3 and level 4, we want pre and post. Remember reading that with all those examples I gave? So certainly you might ask them, or you would ask them before they came to a workshop on this, to list the available and current materials they have in their block area. And then after training, maybe about 3 weeks after training, you would go back and say, list the current types and amounts of materials, because what are you measuring here?
Pre and post.
Pre and post, and what kinds of materials they are making available to children, because those materials should eventually, those increased and better materials should have an impact on the children. So this, in fact, is a level 3 post-training question looking for what teachers are doing differently now. Does that, again, those of you who answer something else, does that make sense to you now?
Yes.
Okay, you wouldn't ask this at the end of training because they haven't gone back and done anything differently with the materials in their block area, right? Are you all there?
Yes.
Okay, next question. Was the pace of the training appropriate? What kind of inquiry? Level 1, 2, 3, or 4? Okay, 80% plus said level 1. Why do you say level 1? What kind of an inquiry is it?
It's a yes or no question given at the training.
Yes or no isn't going to give us a bearing as to whether it's a level 1 or level 2, okay? What is going to tell us the difference? What is it looking for here?
Their reaction to the training.
Yeah, it's reaction to the training. There's nothing in here about content, is there? Okay, nothing in here about content. It's all about, did you like the pace of the training? Did you think it was appropriate? So that is participant reaction. Everybody okay with that? Get that?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, next one. Please rate the overall value of today's training on a scale of 1 to 5. What level inquiry? What are we looking for in this one? Are we after content or are we after reaction? The value, if you're asking about how somebody values something, is that content or opinion?
Opinion.
So if it's opinion, what level is it?
1.
Level 1. Please rate the overall value. I'm going to say to you, I thought this training was great. Is that content or reaction? That's reaction. It's level 1. Okay? Are there questions to this? Because it's 50-50 here. I want to make sure you understand. You know, people, you're asked this question all the time, aren't you, when you go to training? Basically, how did you like the training, right? Was this training valuable to you, right?
Yes.
Have you been asked questions like that?
Mm-hmm.
Those are questions getting at your reaction level. Did you like it or didn't you? Okay? Is that clear?
Yes.
Everybody?
Yes.
Okie dokie.
Yes.
Next one, Patty. Thanks.
Yes.
Would you recommend this training workshop to your colleagues? What kind of inquiry is that? Let's vote. Get the votes in. Would you recommend this training workshop to your colleagues? You can just ask yourself, are they asking anything about content or is it all about my opinion? And if it's about your opinion, you are right. 100% of you said it's level 1 and it is level 1. Got it? Is that clear to everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we got 100% going here so far, so that's terrific. Next one.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. List the verbal support strategies that encourage adult-child interaction. What kind of inquiry is this? Those of you who are saying level 2, it's 100% so far. Why do you say it's a level 2 inquiry?
Has to do with content and learning.
Absolutely. You're wanting to find out, what they can say about verbal support strategies, and it comes at the end of training. Exactly right. Next one. List the 3 steps an adult should use to introduce a child-initiated small group time. Get your votes in. Are we asking for their opinion? Or are we asking for something else?
We're asking for content.
We're asking for content again. Absolutely right, which makes it a level 2, what they learned about. They learned about these steps, and we're asking them if they can list some of them. Next one. Was an appropriate amount of content covered during this training? What kind of inquiry? Okay, those of you who said it's a level 1, why is it a level 1? You are correct.
Appropriate is my opinion.
That's exactly right. It's opinion. Next one. Those of you, if you have questions when doing this, speak up. What were 2 key learning points for you today? I could see how somebody might say that this is an opinion because it's their opinion as what the key learning points were. But in asking for the learning points, you are asking them to talk about content. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Everybody
Yes.
get that? So it is a level 2. Okay? Next. Are you motivated to attend a follow-up session on this topic? Get your votes in. Okay, we've got somebody down there, and they're changing their mind at a level 3. It says, are you motivated to attend a follow-up session on this topic? Those of you at level 1, why is this a level 1?
My reaction.
It's their reaction. Yeah, I really like this. I would come to something like this again. Totally opinion. Next one. What did you like best about your training experience today?
That's opinion, right?
Okay, once again, this is totally reaction, what they liked. The word like is even in it, so that should be a dead giveaway for you. Next. What are 3 changes you could make based on the principles for arranging the learning environment? What are 3 changes you could make based on the principles of arranging the learning environment?
I think so. Because no.
Now, why, those of you that are putting down level 2, why is this obviously level 2 for you?
You're listing some learning, some things that you learned.
Some things that they learned about, the content stuff. You're asking them to rethink about what they learned about the content and what are changes they could make based on that content. Absolutely right. And for those of you who said level 3, see, nobody's done anything yet. It only says what changes could you make. Okay, could you make it? So they're just thinking about what they learned and what they could do based on what they learned. So it is a level 2. Next. An increased score, you get an increased score results on the ITERs or the ECHRs or the class assessment.
The results, wasn't it?
We got 50-50. Somebody want to explain this one? What they think it is and why? Somebody out there, come on, take a turn.
I feel like it's a level 3 because your score is only measuring your environment, not the impact your environment's having.
But what you've done in that particular thing, what the adult has done, has caused an impact, and the impact is that you have gotten a better score on the ITERs, ECHRs, or class because of what the adult has done, which makes it what?
Level 4.
Level 4. Yep, that's exactly right. Looking at the environment, the result, the impact on the environment. Okay, next. What are 3? Oops, I think that went back, Patty. Backwards. Patty, we need to move forward one. Okay. Oops, that went backwards. Are we done? We might be done, folks. Oh, here we are. Describe the difference between verbal and nonverbal adult-child interaction strategies. Describe the difference between verbal and nonverbal adult-child interaction strategies. 100% so far on level 2, and that is because, what are we asking for?
Content.
Content information. Okay, next one. What are 4 to 6 different book genres represented in children's books? Okay, the voting is coming in pretty quickly and pretty strong. This 2 is level 2 because?
Learning.
We're looking at the learning, the content that was covered. Next one. Write 3 open-ended questions you might ask a child while they are engaged in play. So I hope you can see at this point, at the end of a workshop on learning about open-ended questions, you should be able to ask on your evaluation, for them to list 3 kinds of open-ended questions, 3 examples of open-ended questions. And by what they write, do you think that's valuable information to get via an evaluation?
Yes.
Yeah, if people are writing down examples of open-ended questions, you're going to get a very good idea of how they, grasp that information that you were trying to get across to them that day. And that's very, very good information to get on an evaluation. All right, next one. Was this training an effective use of your time? All right, we pretty much have 100% here. That is an opinion. Either it is or it wasn't, and they're going to tell you what they think. So that was level 1. Next one. Was there enough time allowed for questions to be asked and answered? That definitely, again, is participant opinion, reaction, what they think about it. Either they thought there was or they thought there wasn't. So that is a level 1 inquiry. If you said, one of you who said level 4, if you've got a question about this, please ask. All right, next question. Tape and tally yes, no, single answer, and open-ended questions used by the adult while reading a book to children. Tape and tally yes, no, single answer, and open-ended questions used by the adult while reading a book to children. Okay, 80% said this is level 3. Why do you say it's a level 3?
Because I'm actually doing an observation and looking at that behavior change.
That's exactly right. Couldn't have said it better myself. You're actually doing an observation and looking at the behavior change. So it is not level 4. It is what is the teacher doing differently. And we hope that there's, by watching and listening to her read that book, her or him, that they are actually increasing their use of open-ended questions. So that is behavior change. Absolutely. Okay, next one. We're probably getting close to the end. We might be at the end. Okay. All righty. So that was the poll. And I want to thank you for completing the poll. And let's take a look at the results, the poll results. Okay. This graph is a visual representation of the questions and inquiries that were submitted. By just looking at this visual, what do the columns tell us? What are the implications to us as trainers? What do these columns tell us in terms of how we look at level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4?
We do most of them in level 1 and level 2.
Okay, you have a pretty strong understanding and a pretty strong usage of level 1 and level 2 question types, right?
Yes.
So that is your strength area. Would you agree with that? Level 1 and level 2, you have a strength in that area?
Yes.
You're using them? Okay, that's exactly right. And that's what I want you to get out of this particular graph. Very, very important information. So why do you think that happened? Why do you think that most of the questions people sent in were level 1 and level 2 evaluation questions?
They're familiar and they're what we have experience with.
It's what you have experience with. It's what you're familiar with. Exactly right. Those are probably the 2 strongest reasons. It's also immediate. It's things we're used to. You know, well, those are the 2 prominent reasons right there. So based on the consistent answers as we're doing in the poll, you clearly understood the levels of questions and inquiries that you were reading. This is an additional proof that knowledge and understanding come before practice and skill, because intellectually, you are recognizing easily level 1 and 2, and to a certain degree, level 3 and 4. But in action and application, this is going to be a lot more difficult. Not level 1 and level 2. You pretty much have that. You've done that. You've demonstrated that, right? But level 3 and level 4 in practice is going to be much harder. How new is level 3 and level 4 evaluation to you folks on this webinar today?
Brand new.
Others? Some other responses?
Brand new.
Brand new, brand new. Others?
I've done some coaching sort of things before, but they're not quite as deliberate as the evaluation piece of 3 and 4.
Okay, so you haven't done it deliberately. So for those of you that are new trainers out there in this particular FET, the good thing is you don't know any other way, and you can build this in immediately. Okay? So you're a step ahead, and I say that because the more experienced trainers will actually have to work a little bit harder at this, because they'll have to break an old habit and learn a new trick. So this is a time where you folks that aren't as seasoned can feel kind of like, oh, I've got to jump on this. And the seasoned trainers, this is going to be a bit of a challenge for you. Would you agree to that? Those of you who are seasoned trainers out there listening to this webinar?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, finally, I'd like to ask, each of these levels of evaluation is important, but of these 4 levels, which are the most critical levels of evaluation, and why do you think that is?
I think levels 3 and 4 are probably more critical because they actually can measure lasting change.
Okay, other people, what are your reactions to this?
I think 3 and 4 are most important because that is the purpose. What we're trying to do, we're trying to see change, and so the quality will improve, and with the services to the children, and their performance will also.
You're exactly right, both of you. The bottom line is level 1 and level 2 are nice to know, and they're appropriate. You get that at the end of training. But we're really all about the definition of change, effective training and changing behavior to have, a better setting and a more effective setting for children. And the only way you can prove that your training is in fact helping to move people forward is to measure accountability. And the only way you can measure accountability is through levels 3 and 4. That's why they're the most critical levels, and they are the most often the levels that are ignored or not paid attention to. Have you experienced that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So according to our initial definition of effective training, there must be a behavior change on the part of the participant. That's what we do the training for, is to help them learn a new behavior. Acquiring a new knowledge or skill will not fulfill the workplace outcome if the knowledge and skills are not implemented. Funders are interested in results and impact, the return on their investment. Level 3 and 4 evaluation is the way that you provide that kind of critical information. When a trainer can show the director that a staff has had a % of improvement, a change in behavior, even if it's only 6% or 8%, this beats having no information at all, and it absolutely proves that your training has made a difference, and it motivates and inspires staff to keep practicing and implementing, and it keeps their efforts alive and ongoing. And when you follow that by proving results and impact, directors will be far more apt to ask you back to do more training. They'll be far more apt to work with you in terms of following your direction, and they'll be far more apt to trust your decisions. Do you see how critically valuable learning to do level 3 and 4 evaluation is?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And if I say to somebody, well, the training was pretty effective, you know, your staff did an 8% increase, that's pretty good. No one's going to get excited about that. But if you approach it through your tone and your words and you say, your staff have made an 8% increase since the time before we did this training to this 3 months after training, an 8% increase. If we keep working on this, that increase is going to get bigger and bigger. How do you think directors will react to that?
Enthusiastic.
Yeah. 8% in your minds, even sitting on at your desk right now, you might be saying, that's not much. And you're right. It's not much. But based on the word you choose, rather than saying you only increase, if you say, oh my gosh, I want to report to you that there's been an 8% increase, well, that's 8% more than it was. And if they keep working, that is probably going to continue to grow. That's phenomenal information. And people get excited about that. The teachers get excited about it. The directors get excited about it. And they'll want you back. They'll want to work with you, both the directors and the teachers, and they'll trust you. And so I can't think of any better reason than that, honestly, for learning and becoming good and effective at implementing level 3 and level 4 inquiries. And it's not that difficult. And when I say that, I really mean that. In a training, in any given 2 or 3 hour training, you might be looking for one change in behavior, maybe 2. Remember at the face-to-face when I said you're going to have 2 to 4 training outcomes. That's it, right? Remember in a 2 or 3, in a 2 hour workshop, 2 or 3, and in a 3 hour workshop, 3 or 4 outcomes, right? Remember?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I want you all with me here. Well, only 1 or 2 of those outcomes are going to be skill-based. It's going to be that practice stuff, right?
Yes.
So that's the stuff you're going to measure. It might be one thing and it might be 2, but in a 2 or 3 hour workshop, that's about it. And that's pretty easy to acquire. Okay?
Yes.
So I want you to give this some real serious thought, because you yourselves have come up with the rationale of why level 3 and level 4 are so critical, but very few trainers are implementing it. And you need to start doing that, you know, when you go back and you start working on your training. Okay? So are there any questions about this right now? In terms of what I've just said about the criticalness of level 3 and 4 evaluation process?
No.
No question.
No question. All right. So we're going to move on. I'm asking, what are the implications for trainers regarding planning for evaluation? All 4 levels of evaluation are what?
Important.
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 Exactly correct. All 4 levels are important. The next question, all 4 levels of evaluation must be what?
Present.
Well, that's a good one. There's another word. Present is very acceptable. Can anybody come up with another P word?
Planned.
Yes. Now, present is good, but for it to be present, they need to be what?
Plan.
Planned. So all 4 levels of evaluation are very important, and all 4 levels of evaluation must be planned. I want to go back for just a minute. The good news is, when you think about this, we are experienced and quite capable with level 1 and 2 evaluation, which means the glass is half what?
Full.
Oh.
Yes, you are 50% accomplished already. Level 3 and 4 evaluation will be a bit more challenging for you. And this is my challenge that I want to present to you. I want you to move past where you are and challenge yourself to include level 3 evaluation, a set number of weeks following your training, and include level 4 evaluation, a set number of months following your training. Start with just one group of participants and stick with it. Get proficient and show directors what you are made of and how you are able to not only inspire and change in behavior in staff, but provide results and impact on the children, and that you can prove it to them that your training did that. You'll be able to print the chart that you saw as a result of our polling, and also as a follow-up to Module 4, you will receive a document with the sample level 1, 2, 3, and 4 questions that you saw, okay? So before we sign off and end this webinar, I want to ask what questions you have and what comments you would like to share regarding this webinar on the evaluation levels or levels of evaluation. We have just a few more things to do, but I really would like you to think about what questions you have right now and what comments you would like to make regarding what we learned about today. Anybody? Questions, comments?
I appreciate the opportunity to be able to get feedback on the information presented.
By doing the poll?
Yes, and just being able to have the back-to-back conversation.
Okay. Oh, from what we did in training to now and then what's going to be coming?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions or comments about things that we talked about in this webinar? We led up to it at the face-to-face. There's going to be more to come when you sign off here. I'd like you all that are on this now to know that this was a recorded session. And so afterwards, if you would like to go back over this and listen to it again, listen to the reasoning, look at the information, look at what we did, it will be available to you in the course to revisit this and look at it again, okay? Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. So following the completion of this evaluation webinar, you will have an online assignment. It's an activity called Evaluation Plan, where you are going to have the opportunity to practice writing level 3 and 4 inquiries. Why do you think we're not having you write level 1 and level 2?
We're already very good at it.
Yes, you're very good at that. Very, very good at that. Where you need to practice is level 3 and 4, and you will get written feedback from me, detailed, so that you know where you went right, you know where it maybe was a little bit crooked, but so that it becomes a learning process for you and you have a much more solid understanding of how to ask that level 3 and level 4 inquiry. And so that you can ask it before the training and after the training. Now, why do we talk about asking those same level 3 and 4 questions pre-training and post-training? What's the purpose behind that?
Measure the impact.
What?
It's a good way to show impact or to show the results.
Nope. Results and impact. It was for the kids. And yes, actually, you'll be doing some pre and post for the kids stuff too. Absolutely. But for both of those, the reason you do the pre and the post is so you have something to measure against. Okay? They come to the training with a blank slate pretty much, or they're doing a little something but not much, right? You want to capture that. Let me use an example. If you're going to do a workshop on setting up an appropriate learning environment for infants, let's say, you want them to send to you pre-training or bring with them to training a current diagram of their learning environment setting as it is right then, right? You get that?
Yeah.
Everybody?
Yes.
Okay, then after you do your training and they go back home, you would ask them about 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the road, send me now a current drawing of the diagram of how your infant setting is set up now. Now what do you have to look at, to measure? By doing the pre and post, what do you have?
You know what has been learned.
Yeah, you have what what their environment looked like before they came to training, and now what their environment looks like 3 weeks after training when they've had a chance to implement the things they learned about. Now you can measure their growth. And there are other things, everything that you do like that, you can get a pre and a post, both on level 3 with the adults and level 4 with the children. Okay? So you're going to practice and learn how to do that. Are you game?
Sure.
Yes. I sure hope so. We'll work on that in the assignment. Like I said, you'll get feedback, and hopefully from that feedback you will learn. You can discuss back and forth with me. Hey, I don't get this, or oh, that really makes sense. I didn't look at it that way. Whatever. It's there for you to learn from. Okay. So I want to thank you for your time, your attention, and your participation in this webinar. I hope it's been helpful to sort of set the groundwork for what's to come in Module 4 in terms of what you're going to do in terms of writing those inquiries. And then that will be followed up, like I said, with feedback from me regarding the work that you've done. Okay?
Okay. All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So how do you disconnect from these when you do it? Do you, I mean, do you just hang